Hare Krishna, Pranam dear devotees. Thank you all so much for joining. Let's start with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna Pranam. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining to continue our reading of this very beautiful scripture, the Updeshamrit, Nectar of Instruction. So we are on verse 2 now, and last Friday, Shashimukhi Mataji gave us a full overview of the verse, and then yesterday, Amal Bhakti Mataji started explaining para by para, and 3 paragraphs were covered yesterday. Now we'll continue from that point. So first, let's read the verse and the translation. So would someone like to read the shloka and the translation? Anyone? Yeah, Shobha Mataji. Yes. Shobha Mataji and then Sumati Mataji. You can both read. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam,
Krishna.
Nectar of
Dhanwad.
Devotion. Shloka number 2. Atyahara prayachascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamscha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Should I read the synonyms also, Mataji?
Yeah, Mataji. Okay, you can read.
Synonyms translation and proper by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Synonyms: Atyahara, overeating or too much collecting. Prayaschaha, over enduring. Cha and Prajalpa, idle talking. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agaraha, too much attachment to. Or Agraha, too much neglect of. Janasangaha, association with worldly minded persons. Cha and Laulyam, ardent longing or greed. Cha and Sadbhi, by these 6, Bhaktihi, devotional service, Vinashyati, is destroyed. Translation: One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too much entangled in the following 6 activities. Number 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over enduring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Number 4, practicing the spiritual rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Number 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And number 6, being greedy for mundane achievements.
Hare
Purport.
Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji. Dandavats. Thank you.
Dhanwad Mataji. Sumati Mataji, you want to read the shloka?
Hare Krishna, Dandat
Hare
Pranams
Krishna.
Mataji.
Dhanwad Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
अत्याहारप्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Sudha Mataji, you want to read the shloka once?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna.
Pranams.
Pranams.
अत्याहार प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्ति विनश्यति. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So this shloka, in this shloka, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us 6 items which are detrimental to our bhakti. 6 kind of activities by which our bhakti can be destroyed. And while on the path of Krishna consciousness, our objective at every step should be to go closer to Krishna by increasing our bhakti. So that is why those things which are pulling us back also have to be studied very diligently and also avoid it. So, like in Shloka 1, we were reading about what are the different urges that one needs to control so that one is able to control, one is able to lead a controlled life, which then is favorable to our bhakti. And now we are reading about these 6 kinds of activities which we have to very carefully avoid. Otherwise, whatever bhakti, we are doing our sadhana, we are chanting, reading, associating, doing sevas, that whatever progress we are making can be greatly hindered by these 6 kind of activities. So it's very, very important that we be alert about these things. But as we are reading through these shlokas, the point is not to, Srila Rupa Goswami is not trying to scare us or discourage us. We have to, yes, we have to become very sober, we have to become alert, we have to become very conscious of what we are doing, but we should not get scared. And we should not give up the path of bhakti just because the goal may seem too big. That, okay, as we are reading through these shlokas, and we may, if we start feeling that, oh, this is too difficult for me to do, I cannot control this urge, or I cannot give up this particular kind of attachment. So then we lose interest in our sadhana. That's not the point. Actually, we should take one step at a time. Like, for example, if there's a person who's suffering with from diabetes, they're supposed to control their diet as well as take some medicines. So even if they're not able to give up their attachment, or their desire to consume sugary foods, at least they should keep taking the medicine. It's not that, okay, I'm not able to give up sugar, so what's the point of taking the medicine, let me just give up both. No, that defeats the whole purpose, and the disease may worsen or will definitely worsen. So the same thing is for us. We are in this material world, we are suffering with bhava rog. So there are some sadhana practices that we have to do, and then there are some things which we need to avoid also. If that thing is seeming difficult, that's okay. But we should still continue taking the medicine. That is our sadhana. So gradually by taking the medicine, the diabetic person will develop the strength to give up sugar also. In the same way, just because our material attachments may be very strong, that should not cause us to give up our devotional practices, our devotional service. Because only when we keep doing the devotional practices will we get the strength and taste by which we can eventually give up the lower tastes. Okay, so at no point should we let ourselves get discouraged. No matter how severe our attachments are, no matter how many faults are there in us, we should never get discouraged by hearing these kind of scriptural statements. They are not there to discourage us, they are there to tell us that, okay, we need to work hard and achieve this goal where ultimately everything will be great. So we should understand that this is not for making us feel bad or low about ourselves, but to make us more alert, make us more conscious. Because ultimately, our only source of strength on this path is our Krishna consciousness practices. Right? We need the strength, we need the spiritual strength to be able to give up these things, to be able to take up the things which are favorable for bhakti, and that will come from our sadhana. So we should never, never leave those practices. And Krishna consciousness depends on our enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we will fall back into the same material attachments which have always bound us for lifetimes, uncountable lifetimes. So, yes, okay, I may be falling short in many areas, but still We have to keep our enthusiasm every morning. Every morning is a fresh start. Okay, maybe yesterday I failed to do some things. Today, again, another start. And Krishna is so merciful that he gives us another day. He's constantly giving us chances. He's not like, a strict teacher that, okay, I'll give you just one exam to appear. If you fail, you fail. Krishna is giving us chances after chances. So we should become alert, but take this as an encouragement to do better and with more enthusiasm. If we are able to do that, then we'll be able to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness, and then we'll be able to control our senses, and then we'll be able to advance in bhakti steadily. So it is step by step. The step right now, initially in initial stages, is to do everything with enthusiasm, and that will give us the strength to control our senses, and then we'll be able to advance in bhakti very fast. So these 6 items in this verse that Srila Rupa Goswami is telling us are those items which we need to avoid. And Prabhupada says in the first line of the purport that human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. So these 6 items, if we read through them and if we analyze them, we'll understand that the whole point of these items is to help us live simply and to think high. So, to implement simple living and high thinking, we have to understand and we have to follow the points mentioned in verse 2. And our acharyas have explained that avoiding these 6 kinds of activities is very, very important if we want to advance in bhakti. And if we are not able to follow these things, then advancement is very, very difficult. So these are 6 impediments on the path of bhakti, and we have to be very cautious that we avoid them. And these are things that we are interacting with, or we are, faced with on a daily basis. So that's why, these verses, devotees recommend that we memorize these verses so that we always stop ourselves from overeating or over accumulating, or, just being mad after mundane things. Sometimes our mind may take us there, but then when we remember this verse, then we should pull ourselves back. Or, very, very common is Prajalpa, where we just go on talking about nonsensical things. We meet someone on the road, we meet someone downstairs, and one topic after another, and we don't know how time flies. Then, why are we practicing the scriptural rules and regulations? What is the purpose? Understanding them, that it is actually for spiritual advancement and not to become, a maniac who's just following things for the sake of it, or just totally rejecting everything, acting whimsically. And then associating with worldly minded persons. Associating means where there is interaction, where there is exchange of views. So we have to be very cautious. What is our circle like? Are these people actually helping me advance in bhakti, or are they pulling me back? So then we have to limit our interactions and interact more with devotees who are going to actually pull us towards Krishna more and more. And then mundane achievements. Everyone is so greedy, one after another, one house, two house, more jewelry, more dress, more money, more bank accounts. So these are things which we are faced with on a daily basis. And that's why Srila Rupa Goswami is telling us that these things are not good for your bhakti. You have to give these things up. So why are we taught, it's like he's so merciful. Srila Rupa Goswami is so merciful that every step, things that you should do, things that you should not do, this you need to control, everything he is giving us so that we are conscious on a daily basis, we are alert, so that ultimately we are reaching towards that higher goal of Shri Radha Kund. Okay, so every verse is very, very important. Every verse is very, very significant. And today, let's try to discuss more about Atyahar. That is the first don't, that first thing that we have to avoid, that is Ati Ahara or Atyahara, which means overeating or too much collecting. Okay, so the first 3 paras were completed. Today, we'll try to read these 3 paras and understand these in further detail. Okay, so would someone like to read this para? Indeed. Kripamai Mataji, you want to read?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Mataji. Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so Kripamai Mataji, you can read the first, then Chandrarekha Mataji, you can read the second para, and Gandhimati Mataji, the third para. Okay, let's go in this
Okay.
sequence.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Mataji,
Hare
Kripamai Mataji.
Hare Krishna Tandatana Mataji. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. Adi Devika Klesa, suffering caused by demigods such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adi Bhautika Klesa, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or enemies. And Adhyatmika Klesa, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva Bhautama Hetava, the conditioned souls subjected to these miseries, three miseries, by the control of the external energy, suffer various difficulties.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Chandrarekha Mataji, next.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as good food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Gandhimati Mataji.
According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary atyahara is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, in the first para, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that everyone in the material world is under the control of Krishna's Maya Shakti, and through the different types of kleshas, Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmika klesha, we are suffering different type of because of different type of miseries. So whether it is natural calamities like drought, earthquake, storms, or it is because of other living entities, like corona was there, it was because of a virus, so another living entity causing so much of problem. Everyone, the whole world suffered, and then we have so many natural calamities that come up these days. And then our own, we don't need an external reason. Also, our own body and mind itself is causing so much of problem, and if there is no physical problem, our mind is so complicated that even in the midst of everything seeming fine, someone can be in deep depression. And then it can go to very, very extreme cases also, where one ends up giving one's life because the mind is not in control. So if there are different type of miseries, we are all suffering because of these and stuck here. So the conditioned souls are subjected to these three miseries by the control of Krishna's Maya Shakti, and they suffer various difficulties. Then, what are the difficulties? There is birth, there is old age, there is a disease, there is death. Everyone has to go through these four sufferings. And we are we have been given this particular kind of body, so we have to maintain the body. There is some work that all of us need to do, but we have to see that how we can make this work favorable for our Krishna consciousness. Everyone will need to acquire some things, and there are many things which are needed for our maintenance. Everyone will need some shelter, clothing, food. All these things are definitely required, but we have to draw a line between necessities and then luxuries. So that's the problem. Many times we just think that luxuries are necessities. If we go back even 50, 60 years, the requirements in the family were very limited now. So even with very smaller incomes also, even big families were able to live very comfortably, and they were able to go on with their life with big families, limited incomes, but yet everyone was more satisfied, more happy, even because the requirements were less. Now, there are many things, if we see in our homes also, there are many things which are actually not so necessary, but we are so used to using them that those luxuries also now seem to be basic needs for us. So that has changed over generations, and we have to consider that aspect also, that there are some things which definitely we need to acquire and keep, but where does that end and where does it go to a luxury thing which we just spend so much on? So that we have to be very mindful about. And then Prabhupada is talking about this very nice example, taking this example from the animal kingdom of the birds not over accumulating. Now, ahar, this word ahar, it means to eat, the diet, and atyahar means eating too much. But we have to understand that it's not just about food. It's because, the previous verse already, Srila Rupa Goswami has taught us that we have to control the urge of our tongue and our belly, right? So if he was just talking about food again in this verse, then there would be a repetition, there would be a redundancy. But we know that our scriptures are free from any redundancy. So that means that there is more to this word atyahar than what we apparently see. So if we just hear atyahar, we'll think, okay, it's just about, avoiding overeating. But it's not just that. Okay, ahar or this diet or this eating or this craving is not just for the tongue, it's for all the senses actually. So example for, for the eyes, to see something good, that is the ahar for the eyes. For the sound, it is the, the sound is the ahar for the ears. Fragrance for the nose, taste of food for the tongue, and some nice feeling for our skin, that sensation on the skin. It's food for the skin. So embodied souls enjoy these sensations. Okay. Now, when we try to control the senses, we feel that the hunger of the senses is not getting satisfied. And that is what craving is, right? If we just want to deprive ourselves of something, that okay, we have to eat limited quantities, we have to live simply, and we should not see some kind of thing, we should not hear this kind of music. And if we just stop these things externally, then our senses will revolt, because we are depriving our senses of something that our senses were enjoying, but we are not giving our senses something better. Like, for example, many uh, people who deal into child psychology, they say that if your child is playing with something that can harm them, then if you just tell the child don't play with that, the child will not listen. But if you give the child something more interesting, then they'll leave that harmful thing and get attracted to this toy, or which is safer option, a better option for the child. In the same way, our senses, they are very, very restless. So we have to give our senses a higher taste, then we'll be able to give up these lower tastes. So just artificially renouncing is not possible. That's why this point of devotional practices has to always go with our reading of scriptures. Otherwise, if we are reading scriptures and not doing any seva, not chanting, then everything will be very dry for us and very difficult to follow. So this demand of the senses, it cannot be renounced completely. But we have to understand that what is it that is required for the maintenance of our body, in such a way that we are able to practice bhakti nicely. Like I gave this example last time also, that this body is the machine that is given to us, through which we have to perform a work, or a vehicle through which we have to reach Krishna. Now, if this vehicle or this car is not in our control, then we'll not be able to reach Krishna. So to bring this under control, we have to become the masters of this body and not become slaves of it. So that's where the whole point of control comes, right? So Srila Prabhupada is giving us, in Srila Prabhupada, in this context of Atyahar, Prabhupada also has included over accumulating, right? Because over accumulating is actually the ahar or the food for our ego, right? When we see over accumulating, it's not really satisfying our body so much because bodily necessities are already served. Beyond that, when we are accumulating, it is because we want to feel good about ourselves. We want to satisfy our ego that, oh, my house is so much bigger than my neighbor's house, or I have so much more jewelry, or now I have so many wonderful cars. So it is not really for our necessities, but it is for our ego. That's why Prabhupada has told us that accumulating, over accumulating, is also atyahar. And this example of a bag of rice being placed in a public place, birds will come and they will only take what they need, but a human being will come and take the whole bag of rice. Birds will just come and collect a certain amount only, and then they will go away. Next day again, they'll come out and look for grains or rice. But through this, what is Srila Prabhupada, what is he illustrating through this example? That the bird is not thinking that I am going to need grains tomorrow also. So why don't I collect it now itself? Why keep it lying on the street? So this is what a human would think. That okay, today maybe I'm satisfied, but why not just take it? Tomorrow I'll need rice again, right? So I'll just take it. So this example has to be understood in the right place and in the right context, because there are other places where Srila Prabhupada has spoken about the importance of saving for the future. Like Prabhupada has told us that, of whatever we earn, we should save 25% for future emergencies. So then one may think that, okay, how do these both, tie up together? That, okay, we should not take more, but then we have to save. How do we really understand that? So that is a valid point. Saving is very, very important, and we have to take care of that, but we should not mix these two analogies of saving and then of over accumulating. The point is, the basic difference is what our mentality is. The problem comes because we have a grabbing mentality, that okay, if there's something that is in abundance or something more, or and I'm in a place where I can see that abundance, then I'll want to just grab it. Okay, so this is a tendency that human beings have, animals don't have, and that's why Prabhupada is saying that there is no scarcity in the animal kingdom, but because humans tend to over accumulate, there is scarcity, there is so much problem. And there have been instances in history where very rich nations, they have actually burnt the extra crop that particular year, because if all the crop came into the market, then the supply would be more than the demand, and then the price would fall and they would not make as much profit. I mean, can we even think about it? Grains, tons and tons of grains have been burnt. It's so sad, but this really practically shows us this fault of this grabbing mentality. So human beings, we have that tendency that whenever we see something, we just want to grab it. We want to grab as much as we can. And there have been some, those kind of videos where earlier it used to come on television where they would make a fool of someone. And there was one particular episode where I was a very young kid at that time, but I remember this, it stayed with me because they were just giving out waste things on a petrol pump. They were giving out like a broken keyboard or some unrelated things of a computer. They were just telling some customers that, oh, you are a lucky dip winner, and we want to give you these things for free. And the happiness on the faces of the people, just because they were getting something free, even though there was absolutely no use of those items. Those items were picked in such a way that they were completely useless. But just because, we were getting something for free, people were so happy. So this is how it is now. and anything for free, anything that is there, we just want to go and grab that tendency, that mentality is actually the problem. So we should not, if we are thinking that, okay, I may have a shortage tomorrow, so I need to keep these things, save these things, that is a separate mentality. But generally, what happens is that when one is grabbing, one is not really thinking that I'm grabbing this because I may have a shortage tomorrow of this particular item, so let me take it. No, grabbing is just happening out of greed. So that greed, that is what we need to cut. So for example, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu in this regard was giving an example that, for example, there is a feast in one of our temples, and then there are gulab jamuns. So 60 gulab jamuns have been made, and there are 30 devotees. So that means per devotee there will be two gulab jamuns, right? So that is how it has been made. So everyone is supposed to get two. For example, if I reach there into the kitchen before the serving has started and I start eating gulab jamuns. Now, if I eat only two, then I just ate my share. But what if I keep eating more and more because I just like it? Now, at this point, am I thinking that I'm eating this gulab jamun because tomorrow I'll be hungry? So let me nourish myself now? No, I'm not thinking about my nourishment. I'm just eating because I'm greedy for that gulab jamun. So this is the problem. This is the fault. We need things for sustenance. But in this particular case, I was not thinking about my sustenance. I was just thinking about my tongue, the craving of my tongue. I was not worried about my hunger tomorrow. So many times we accumulate not for the worry about tomorrow, but because of the greed for today, irrespective of the utility of that particular item in the future, and not caring that this grabbing will cause deprivation for others. So you must have heard about politicians and celebrities who have like 5,000 pairs of shoes, 5,000 dresses. You know, this money, even if they're not spiritual minded, but they could have used this money for social welfare also. At least, best is if it was used for something spiritual, but no, if even if they can't do that, if they are using it for at least social welfare, then that is still better than keep accumulating things like shoes, bags, dresses. So we human beings have this tendency for atyahar. Yes, we may not be accumulating 5,000 pairs of shoes, but we have to see what are those things in our homes that we really don't need, but we have just accumulated out of greed. Okay, so this should just make us more cautious, right? When we are buying something new, do we really need it? Do we really have space in our homes for that? Do we really have space in our lives for that thing? Many times we don't think about these things and we just gather things, or even with eating. So we have to be very, very cautious about that. So in this regard, about atyahar and the right of doing everything in moderation. We have this beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita, that is 6.17, where Lord Krishna says that yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Lord Krishna is saying that he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, this verse also, Lord Krishna is advising us that everything has to be done in moderation. It's not that, if we are sleeping, we'll just go on sleeping. That is another type of atyahar, or we don't sleep enough. So Prabhupada would say that, even less sleep than what we need is going to make us mad. So eating also, if we eat too little, then we are constantly hungry and then we can't focus on anything. If we eat too much, then we feel very sleepy. If we feel very drowsy, we can't focus on what we are doing either way. So everything, eating, sleeping, recreation, our work also. Are we working just enough so we can maintain our family nicely, or just working because I want to have, my ego needs to be satisfied that I am now the president, now I am the CEO, now I am the CFO. Do we really need to go to, crazy extents to achieve that kind of goal? See, there are many devotees who have reached those high positions also, but doing the normal amount of work, right? If success has to come, Krishna has to give success, they will still become very successful. They'll still become very big. But are they compromising on the time for their sadhana? Devotees won't do that. They give time for everything. Yes, there is time for work, there is time for sadhana, there is time for family, health, everything. And doing this also, there are many devotees who will excel in their fields. So that is up to Krishna. Krishna will send as much success as he wants, as much is needed for us, as much as we deserve. So that is up to Krishna. But we have to understand that are we going madly into this race for a professional success or anything else, that we are doing in our life? Are we really compromising on our sadhana time to get those things? So everything has to be regulated, right? Now, going back to the idea of just artificially giving up these things, that's not practically possible. We have to give our senses something better. Only then will we be able to control it, and only then will we be able to sustain it for a long time. Okay, maybe, yeah, today I think that, okay, I'm going to stop overeating, I'm going to give up these things, but I'm not doing my sadhana. After some time, that craving will become so strong that it will hit me even harder. So Lord Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 2.59 that Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. That though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in Krishna consciousness. So this takes us back to the first point I mentioned, which devotees recommend, that we have to, in any case, continue our sadhana with enthusiasm, because that sadhana is going to give us that higher taste by which we will be able to restrict ourselves from all these things. See, in Krishna consciousness, we'll see there are so many children also who will not get attracted by food that is cooked outside, or cinema, or these kind of things, or the kind of dresses, or the glitter of the world. Even children who are by nature very restless, but even they are able to be away from all those things. They don't drink all these aerated drinks or tea, coffee, or anything like that. They are able to stay away from these things. How? Even as a kid, they're able to do that. How? Because they're getting the higher taste. So even for adults and everyone to be able to follow these principles requires a lot of mental courage. That will come only by sadhana. So in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada says that one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. So, in front of Krishna consciousness, everything else appears pale. So, to give up the lower tendencies, one has to practice Krishna consciousness very nicely. Now, another thing that devotees recommend is that when we are talking about sense control, we have to understand that all the senses, everything is actually given to us by the Lord. So we should not misuse it. So using everything for the correct purpose means yukta vairagya. That means using everything but with a sense of detachment. So that means accepting everything to such an extent that it is helpful in our bhakti, accepting things which are favorable in our bhakti, and giving up things which are unfavorable for our bhakti. So everything has to be seen in this light. That is this going to be helpful for my bhakti or not. So this should be our compass every time, that this should guide me. Everything, every activity, we should weigh it against this thing, that really, should I do this? Should I say this? Should I meet this person? Should I take up this job? Should I give up this job? Should I move to that place or not? All these things we have to consider. Is this going to be helpful for my bhakti or not? So that should be our consideration. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami, in this verse, he is advising all us sadhakas to abandon over collecting, that is atyahara. But if we accept things in moderate quantity and to such an extent that it is favorable for our bhakti, knowing that this is actually Krishna's mercy, then if we are accepting those sense objects in moderation, then that is not atyahara. Okay, so if we are saying that atyahar is there for all the senses, then how do we just to what extent do we restrict? That we have to understand that everything, all the senses will need some amount of gratification. We need to see nice things, we need to eat nice food, we need to hear good things. But to what extent do we let our senses go? That is still the extent that is favorable for my bhakti, that is not harmful for my bhakti. Now, there are objects of senses, we are all surrounded by these. But when the objects of senses are received with simplicity and regarded as the Lord's mercy, then that becomes yuktahar. Okay, so these terms we have to become very clear. Ahar means the diet or anything that is enjoyed by our various senses, and atyahar means excessive, that is overeating or overindulgence. And then yuktahar. Yuktahar means using that thing, using that ahar for the correct purpose. That is yuktahar. That is appropriately using it. So, appropriate objects of consumption on the path of bhakti. So, this is what is required. We should not go for atyahar, but yuktahar. The right amount of everything, right amount of gratification for the senses. Everyone needs food to survive. Yes. So, we give ourselves the food, required quantity of food, not less, not more. Okay. Then everyone will need some amount of social interaction, will need some amount of recreation, hearing nice things, seeing nice things. All this is there, but in a limited quantity. And then there are some things which are totally prohibited. Those definitely we have to avoid. Okay, so in this way, when everything is done with Krishna in the center, then we are able to achieve Yukta Vairagya. And like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, right, that we should accept the objects of senses with detachment and we should constantly chant Krishna's names. Okay? That is going to help us follow these things strictly. Now, we may have this question that we are grihasthas, so we will need some amount of savings also. We have our responsibilities towards our families and everything in our lives. There's so many things. So we will need to collect some things. Definitely, when we are earning, there will be some savings. But over collecting due to our fondness for something, that is actually incorrect. Like, Matachis, they'll need some amount of jewelry, they'll need, everyone needs clothes, everyone needs a good house. But are we building a house just for shelter purposes? Is that house adequate for my family? That is what should be our consideration, and not having something just for, a social status symbol. That, okay, all my friends are living in a bungalow, so even I should go live in a bungalow, even though my family is just of three persons and I don't actually need a bungalow. And okay, all my friends have diamond earrings, so even I should get diamond earrings, even though I don't really like it and I don't really need it. So these should be our considerations, that are we accumulating those things for a practical purpose or just because we are fond of those things. If we are doing it just out of fondness, then we are being greedy and then we will not be able to achieve the higher goal. And if we are going the opposite way, that we are saving less than what we need, collecting less than what I need, then we'll not be able to maintain this body properly, which is useful for the sadhana, for performing bhajan. So if I am a if I am a grihastha and I am not providing enough for my family, then I'm stopping their spiritual advancement also, right? Because if they are deprived, if they don't have enough to eat, or if they're not like sheltered properly and they are all constantly in deprivation, then will they really be favorable towards bhakti? That is a question we need to ask. So we see all the responsible grihasthas in our society. They always take care of their families very nicely. One grihastha should always earn enough so that they are able to provide them for their family properly and thus assist in their progress in Krishna consciousness. And grihasthas will also need to save for the future, right? Because a grihastha is not dependent upon society for their sustenance like a sannyasi or a brahmachari is. The brahmacharis, the sannyasis, they are serving the society, right? So the society serves them in turn by taking care of their needs. That is how the correct varnashram system is. But for grihastha, that's not the case. So grihasthas have to save properly, they have to earn properly. So this concept of overaccumulation is different for those in the renounced order, and it's different for those in the grihastha ashram. Okay, it's categorically different. There are different considerations for grihasthas, and there are different considerations for sannyasis and brahmacharis. So a householder can earn and collect what is necessary for his family, and with those assets, they also serve the Lord. They have a temple in the house. They do deity worship. They offer bhoga. So in this way, they are sustaining their families and themselves also, and serving Krishna also through that. But if they endeavor to collect more than necessary, then it becomes an obstacle to their practice of bhakti. See, because these needs, there's no end to it. If I'm driving a particular car and I'm just craving for a bigger car, even though it's not really a utility item for me because my small car is also seating my family comfortably. But just because, a new car is there in the market and it just looks so beautiful, then this is really over it. But on the other hand, there may be a grihastha who actually needs a bigger car because he has a bigger family. So this has to be taken case by case, and it all comes back to our mentality. With what mentality are we doing things? Okay, that is actually going to, make or break our bhakti progress. So both earning and collecting more than necessary comes in the bracket of atyahar, but this is going to be different for the different ashramas, and according to our status and our stage in life, things may vary. And those in the renounced order of life, they don't actually collect anything. So how does atyahar come in their life? They are in atyahar if they are not satisfied with the daily alms that they are getting, they are collecting, or if they are eating excessively upon receiving something palatable, that is also atyahar. Okay, so it's different for sannyasis and it's different for grihasthas. So both householders and those in the renounced order, they should very carefully deliberate. All of us should very carefully deliberate on this fault of atyahara so that we can remain fixed on the path of bhakti. Now, as we are reading through these verses, and for the past 1 hour, I was talking about over collecting, over earning. We may think that why is this so important? See, because our mind space is limited. If we fill it with this constant struggle to achieve this and that, then our mind will always be in a constant state of worry or unrest. And with that mind which is in a state of unrest and a mind which is not really peaceful, will we really be able to perform bhakti? I mean, even when the mind is peaceful, when there is no agitation around us, even then performing bhakti is difficult because then our mind will find something to make us uneasy, right? The mind will pull us. Even if everything is fine, the mind will take us back to something that has happened long back and then, bring those memories back and try to disturb us while we are chanting. Now, if we ourselves bring in these problems, that I want to get this, I want to get that, I want more of this, I want more of that, or we end up overeating just because something was so tasty, or I have this desire that I just need to buy that particular dress because it just looks so beautiful, even though I may not have the money right now, but I so want it. So that hankering is there, constantly there in the mind. And then if we are always dissatisfied with what we have, we'll always be agitated. And then how will we perform bhakti? How will we perform sadhana? Even if we are there in the midst of devotees, our mind will constantly pull us back. See, you need to buy that bigger car now. That means you need to earn more. That means you need to work for longer hours. So from tomorrow, you have to stay in office longer than usual. So that time, which was probably my reading time or my kirtan time, has now gone into work because of my hankering for something. So this overeating, over desiring for everything, it's really not something that is encouraged. It's highly discouraged, because ultimately it's going to take us away from our path of bhakti. So much effort, devotees put in, chanting, following rules and regulations. But then we should always be careful that there is not something that is pulling me back. These are actually very subtle things, but they have a great impact on our progress. That is why Prabhupada is taking so much time to explain these purports so nicely, giving us examples from our daily life, giving us examples from the animal kingdom. And in this regard, about the birds not over accumulating, I once saw a video. This was during the lockdown time, when the lockdown was kind of opening up, but then still many restrictions. And in Vrindavan, there was a particular group. They were going out every day with packages of prasadam, and they were distributing it to all the sadhus on the streets. Okay, because because temples were closed, bhandaras were closed. So how will the sadhus get prasadam? So this group, very famous group, they were going around and distributing prasad. And one particular sadhu, this Prabhu went and offered him a prasad box, and he said, "No, no, for today I have eaten. So you can give this to someone else." And Prabhu was saying that if I was in his place, I would have probably taken that. That okay, maybe I'll eat it tomorrow. What if I don't get food tomorrow? But that sadhu, see his consciousness that okay, Krishna has provided for me today, so I don't want to take anybody else's share. Probably there's someone who's not eaten today. So let this box of prasadam go to them. Right? So these kind of incidences, a sadhu could do it. No? A normal person would definitely take that box. But because he was elevated in his consciousness, so he did not have this over accumulating tendency. And Krishna will definitely take care of his devotees. Krishna is taking care of everyone. He is providing food, water, air, shelter for everyone. Will he not take care of someone who is sincerely trying to get closer to him? Definitely he will. His Grace Amog Leela Prabhu was giving a very beautiful example from his own life. That one festival day, it was noon fast. Prabhu had fasted till noon, and then he was distributing prasadam to all the devotees. No, he was obviously a little tired, and after distributing prasadam, and everything got over. All the buckets of prasadam were just scraped out. It was such a successful festival that all the prasadam went away, and Prabhu did not have a single plate. So he was just he was feeling that okay, it would have been nice if I got prasadam, but okay, I'm very happy that I got to serve the devotees. So this is his mentality. He was just, even though after fasting he was not getting prasad, still he was happy that okay, I got a chance to serve the devotees. And then will Krishna let his devotee go hungry? No, there was one Prabhu who came with a full plate of prasadam. That, oh Prabhu, this is one extra plate. Is there some devotee who wants? And Prabhu said, yes, yes, one devotee is there. So Krishna will take care, for sure, We just have to be careful that we are not, we are not nurturing that grabbing mentality. Why? Because Sri Rupa Goswami has told us that it's going to be harmful for my bhakti. So let me not get into that grabbing mentality. And then, yes, we have to work, we have to save as grihasthas. Do it sincerely, honestly. And then whatever is there, Krishna will for sure take care. Our work is to read these scriptures and sincerely try to follow them in our lives. Then everything else is up to the Lord. And as mentioned earlier, while we are doing these things, while we are reading, we have to continue our sadhana with enthusiasm. That is actually the nourishment we need to be able to follow all these rules and regulations. Okay, so we should all never get discouraged thinking that, oh, this ask is too much for me. I cannot do this. It's too difficult. We should never get discouraged. We should always be enthusiastic and pray to Srila Prabhupada for strength. And whenever we feel that we are getting, weak, then we have to pray to Srila Prabhupada. We have to pray to our Guru Maharaj. We have to pray to devotees. And then they will again pull us back on the path of bhakti. Okay. So everything that we are reading, please let's all take it in a very positive frame of mind that this is all given to me for my benefit, and I have to be enthusiastic and try to follow this to the best of my ability. Sincerity is what Krishna is looking for. So let's all try to be very sincere on this path. Okay. So yeah, let's stop here. If there are any questions, anything you want to say, anything you want to add. No? Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow then after this point. Thank you all so much for joining. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत
अनंत
कोटि
कोटि
वैष्णव वृंद
वैष्णव
की
वृंद की
जय
जय
श्रीला
श्री उपदेश
प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद की जय
गोस्वामी की
ग्रंथराज
की जय
जय
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you all.
Krishna,
Thank you so
Prabhu.
much.
Mataji.
Hare
Krishna
Bol. Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Dandavat
Hare Krishna,
pranam.
Join
Mataji. Thank you.
tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण